Everybody, it's Rollo from the Music District. Good morning, good evening, my music lovers and innovators, wherever you may be in this beautiful world. Tonight, we have the distinct pleasure of welcoming a truly remarkable artist to the Music District stage in this week's Artist Spotlight. Joining us is Kaguya, a multi-dimensional talent whose artistic journey transcends the boundaries of music and art. Kaguya is not just a singer and a model, she's a visionary who has embraced the digital revolution. So, from her breathtaking performances inside the metaverse to her foray into the world of NFTs, Kaguya embodies the spirit of innovation and fearlessness. Her advocacy for self care and body positivity has made her a beacon of inspiration and me a fan. She's advocating for a more inclusive and authentic representation in the arts. Kaiguga's journey from the stages of the metaverse to the bustling creative hubs in LA has been nothing but or short of extraordinary. So, as we dive into her world tonight, prepare to be inspired by her unique blend of creativity. Let's give a warm welcome to this beautiful and very talented artist, Kaiguya. And we're going to make sure we're saying her name right. A true icon of the modern music and the future of Web3. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, Kaguya. So I'm really excited to have you here, man. So I'm Rallo. I started the Music District, and essentially we are a broadcast company first and foremost, music discovery channel. So what we do is we highlight the best artists that we could find. So this is kind of cool, man. This is my third year into the metaverse. I am having so much fucking fun with all of this. The people that I'm meeting, I'm just so happy to be enjoying it day in and day out. I bring a lot of positive energy to you, and I'm really excited to learn about you. So why don't you give me, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, and I'm all ears.
Well, I'm from New York. I go by PS Kaguya. I started with this alias around 2016. I first started off as a WordPress where I was writing public diaries just to get better at writing. Kind of happened from my transition when I was studying in Paris in 2014. I was a major in photography, but before that, I was doing cosmetology, and before that, most obviously music. Started off with the piano, and then I was doing flute and band, and then I went into choir. I was in the praise band, and then I taught myself guitar at 16 because I was it was just a weird time. And so a lot of them were like, "You're a girl, you can't play guitar," and I was like, so weird. I guess it's early 2000 vibes. I don't know. And so I taught myself guitar and then started making music. I took a break. So essentially, when I started college in 2009 for photo, because just to appease my parents, essentially, as immigrant parents, just to do the college thing. And now I'm just in debt. But I did the college thing.
Completely normal. Don't worry. You'll get over it.
I was like, I just did the college thing for appease my parents. And so I decided to stop doing music because I had this critique or whatever from a professor. She was a photographer in the mainstream industry, but she's one of those that only shoots high ended celebs and Obama and all these people, and you only have 10 minutes to shoot them because they're short on time. And so I was like, yeah, so I'm planning to do hair and and shoot someone to make them feel great. And she's like, you're never going to be successful. And I was just like, oh. And then so ultimately at that time, I think everyone goes through this, especially when we were younger. We were kind of told that if we're not going to put 10,000 hours into something or whatever and fully fixate on it, that we wouldn't be quote unquote successful. But I feel as the years have progressed, we clearly see that you can put your 10,000 hours into anything that you want as long as it is tried and true for yourself. And so being a Renaissance person, more or less, is more accepted now versus how it was over 10 years ago. So I stopped doing music for 10 years, and then COVID hit, and then I was like, all right, well, I just booked one of the biggest shoots I've ever did for Google, and I booked it myself, and I traveled to LA for the first time at that moment. And I was like, you know what? I think the one thing I want to do before I leave this earth, how everyone was thinking about it, was that I wanted to do music. So I was like following this producer around for about a year on Instagram, and he already has like a big roster or whatever, but I thought he wanted to collaborate, and he's like, "Oh no, 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 you had to pay me." So I did pay like a good penny for my first single, Wi-Fi, but I'm kind of glad I did because it was like
Sounds
an
that's a
experience.
great song. It's a great song. I gotta tell you, I'm a huge fan of Sade growing up.
Yeah,
And I'm sure you've heard it before, but there is nothing. I mean, and I say this as the highest compliment to you,
thank you.
because to hear that you gave up for any amount of time with a voice like yours seems a little bit unfair to the
You
world.
know, when you're like young, I feel like a lot of people still have that hope and dream of being like the next big thing. But for me, I was like, I don't see any Asians being successful in
Mm,
America. And there really still isn't. Unless they're like from K-pop in Korea and then
right.
transferred over. And that's actually was like a lot of the musicians' mentality who were Asian around me. They're
Hmm.
like, I'm gonna go to Korea first and make it really big, land a lot of shows, and then essentially come to America to get noticed. And I was
Hmm.
like, but I don't want to do that. Like, I am Korean, even though my name is Japanese derived. I have a love for anime. So
Now,
either
is
way.
it pronounced? The people want to know what is the right way. No, I'm going to say, is it Kaguya?
The real terminology or like the real way to pronounce it is Kaguya,
Ka,
but
like,
Kaguya is fine. I've definitely got a lot of alternative response like Kayuga, but I'm actually like perfectly fine with either or.
what does that mean?
So ultimately, Kaguya is well, I derived it from the Japanese folklore. So they have like a moon goddess like story, and also like Ghibli or Miyazaki made a Kaguya like
Mhm.
story as well. It's more of like a lighter type of animation, but essentially it's a little princess who comes out of a bamboo, and then but then essentially if she's not able to find a husband on Earth, she has to like go back to her moon kingdom. She was a princess in the moon, and then she saw like the children suffering on land, so she like comes down and starts like giving her breast milk to them and like takes care of the children, and
Hmm.
then ends up leaving her kingdom and her like goddess role to help the people out. I don't know. So my original name is like Diana, and which is in goddess in Greek culture. My mom was really obsessed with Princess Diana, like every '90s mom was, I guess, who immigrated. And I'm a Cancer, so it kind of made sense that I found like a alias that like tied in the moon aspect in it. So that's why Kaguya happened.
That's
But
amazing.
yeah, no, I moved out of New York. What was it? Not last year, but the year prior. That I was like, maybe I should just like go off to a different place because I was able to at the time. But then as soon as I moved to LA, I kept on getting jobs in New York. So
I love that. I gotta tell you, because when I came across you, I was trying to see how long you've been in Web3. How long have you been in Web3, and what drew you into Web3?
yeah.
I'm so curious about your length of time and what drew you into Web3.
Yeah, for sure. So technically, it's about 4 months since I've been in Web3, and that's when I like listed Wi-Fi and 2 a.m. So both of those songs were already on centralized platforms, mind you, right? And I was drawn into Web3 even like from prior years before joining the Twitter Spaces. I was asked by a photographer who was based in LA, and she shot me, and she like put drag makeup on me, had a whole entire beehive wig, and I was wearing like this fishnet outfit. And then she got one of her friends to dress up in like a leather dog suit. And it was kind of like a campy, kitschy
Mm.
type of like photo shoot. And she was like, I'm going to take one of these photos and put them into my photo collection on OpenSea. And that was back in like 2021, 2020 ish. Mind you, she only paid us like $100 each. But like that was like that experience that I was like, oh, okay. I wonder like how how NFTs work. Curious about that. So I like dabbled in that. And then most obviously I had a lot of musician friends around me. And so some of them were talking about music NFTs even back in like 2020, 2019. Like, okay. And then I started my studio space in 2021. And
In
then
New York,
yeah, so it was right off the L train off Morgan Ave.
in
Uh,
Brooklyn.
Yeah, it was
Mhm.
off Bogart. It's like that big like studio space. So I had a space in there called Rice Studios.
And Web3, in here 4 months, what have you found to be a little bit like challenging for you, and what have you found to be not as challenging as you had thought?
I think the challenging aspect, like if you really, really want to like grow and make the right connection, most obviously you have to spend a lot of time. Some days like you don't necessarily have the energy to show up, but like you have to show up. I think that's just like a battle. But I ultimately came in with a goal in mind, even just like I am a musician,
Yes.
but I also am a tech founder.
Like,
So how easy is it for someone in Web 2 to branch into Web 3,
to like
get
and
into a room and get like taught like these, like the basic essentials, like downloading a knowing what kind of platforms you can put your music in.
Speaking
Definitely.
of platforms, I have your platform up on the screen. You see it?
Yeah, so I made that actually even prior to speaking. Yeah, so it was just like I was always interested in like the metaverse aspect even when I was like doing my Rice Studios. So
Not only do we have a little bit of overlap, you and I, in regards to like helping the community of artists, I would love to hear a little bit more about Rice Studios. I know it was closed, but I think you told me it recently reopened.
So I opened the physical space in September of 2021, and it was a physical space that was like around 1,000 square foot. We did like photo and video renting. Around December of 2021, my friend Uzumaki Gallery, who I will be interviewing in the next couple of weeks or the next month. She's a Dominican artist who does like fur installations. And within the first year, I did have another painter named Michael, who actually was the guy in my 2 a.m. music video. Funny enough, we were booked on a random photo shoot with an older agency I was with for a little bit. He had so many big easels everywhere. I was like, you need to keep your paint to like in your section because it's spreading everywhere, my guy. Like getting on the wood and the fur, whatever. Essentially, we parted ways, but anyways, sorry, my ADHD brain. So Rice Studios was founded in 2021, and ultimately it was a place where I felt like it could just be like a community space of being used for whatever, like photo and video bookings, marketplaces. It was my essentially my first physical business of a space. So it's like I really thought I was able to handle it, but then I realized like all my quote unquote like younger workers who are Gen Z, it's just like, don't you want to like do this? I thought you wanted to do this, but then they ended up like working for like, the big
How
guy.
do you use those managerial skills in your artistry? Because right now you have two singles that are out right now, which is 2 a.m. and Wi-Fi. Do you have other tracks, or are you going to be working on some more coming up in the future?
Yeah.
I want more music. I love it. You
Yes.
know what I mean? Because I actually added you to my playlist, and I was like, wait a second, there's only two tracks here. How does somebody with a voice like you only have two tracks?
Well, that's the thing. It's like I realize, and I think everyone knows me for different things, which I'm perfectly fine with because how should I say it? I used to be very, very loud in every single aspect of my life when I first started off in social media because I was like, I have nothing to lose. None of these people know me, like kind of situation.
That's how you got to be all the time. And I've realized that most people, even myself in the past, either fearful or anxious. And usually, if you're fearful, you're living in the future. If you're anxious, if you're fearful, you're living in the past. If you're anxious, you're living in the future. And you sort of use these emotions. For me, is how I got out of this realm. Is I started doing a thought stopping technique, catching myself quicker and much faster, and living and being present in the moment. And so, it's really important to live in those moments because I believe that's where the manifestation comes from. For somebody like you with so much talent, you never want to waste that talent, especially at the young age that you are.
Young. I'm actually 34. I'm turning 35 this
You're
year.
very young. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. Think about it. Anytime you could add 50 to it and still be alive, you're still young.
That's true. That's true.
You know.
Yeah, fair. I think it's just like at this point because I've been modeling for like the past 6 years, and even with that,
Yeah. Let's talk about your modeling career. Yeah. Can we do that? I love
Yeah.
this. I'm so intrigued. Like, so you're a plus size model, right?
Mhm.
And you have a you are you on contract with somebody?
So let's talk about it. So PS Kaguya started off as a WordPress. PS literally means postscript. So every single time I did an entry, at the end I'll be like, PS, you got this, bitch. You know who the fuck you are. Kind of like, little things. And essentially started going on Instagram. So I came out of a very abusive relationship of 2 years, where it was like emotional, mental, even physical. So obviously it didn't work. And then I ended it. And then, I kind of lost myself in that relationship, most obviously being slut shamed, fat shamed, all of it, like gained over like 40 pounds, but it was all like because of my biogenetics of having PCOS, which is a whole different thing for women. As PCOS, which is polycystic ovary syndrome, like a lot of women in the US have it. It's probably from like our food or just like the way we are. And then so ultimately it makes you gain weight, even though you're not really eating. And so like it was like that whole entire thing. And I was dealing with the eating disorder at that time because I was trying to be this like appealing or more attractive version for my partner at that time. But then like it just got really messy. And then I was like, okay, I need to get out of this and like, put my big girl pants on and like be a real human. And then at that time, I had a really good friend, and we worked on a couple jobs together with a mutual friend of ours at that time.
What's
They
their
were
name?
they were in film. They were like a film
Got
major,
it. Cool.
but
Cool.
and drag performance now.
Okay.
So ultimately, they helped me along the journey. And at that time, he was working at Abracadabra, which is that like 24 like 7 all year round Halloween shop in like Chelsea, right? So he was working there. I bought like a Red Riding Hood costume from there, from like the limited plus size costume selections that they had. Spent way too much money on it, and I was like, well, it is Halloween. He is working there, but we're like planning to go to the festival or whatever or party afterwards. So I was like, I have a lot of time because I haven't dressed up in like glam or like cosplay in a very, I don't think I did ever prior to that really. So wore the outfit and I was like, well, I have a camera. I might as well take some self portraits because I haven't taken any self portraits in a very long time after this tumultuous like relationship. And then so took some images and then I posted 3 Red Riding Hood images. And then I started taking more self portraits, colored my hair because I was forced to not color my hair in the relationship. So colored it like full on like thunderbolt silver gray. Then started taking more pictures, and then people started gravitating towards it. For me, it was just more so like to get more comfortable in front of the camera because I was always behind the camera for like 5 plus 6 plus years. Being a photo major, and I was just constantly shooting like skinny white women because at that time, I don't know. I think it was just like that time and where like the inclusivity was just not there as much in the photo and fashion industry in particular because I was in fashion and beauty. And I was just like, well, my parents have no idea what the fuck I'm doing, you know? And so I'm just like, I'm trying to make my own pathway and I think I want to do this. And even then, when I shot like men and stuff, it always came out more feminine. So I actually shot like the cover for Pearl, who is
Now, did those images that you posted of yourself as Red Riding Hood and things like that, now, did they go viral or what is it that?
it didn't go necessarily viral, but I think that was like the beginning of the pinnacle of my Kaguya journey.
What did it prove to you at that moment that?
At that moment that like I can embrace my sexuality and my physical body of how it was
Yeah.
and still be accepted.
Now it's interesting. Now, do you feel like that for yourself in music too, or is it that you're still trying to find that place in music in your head?
Maybe a little bit. So I do have a couple of collaborations in the works. One song is already technically
Yeah.
and then there's like 3 more tracks with that same artist. His name is Extinct. He does more of like the emo, kind of like Juice World, Trippie Red kind of
Cool.
inspired like type of music, and he's
Cool.
from my knowledge about him. But yeah, he's like pretty cool. He's been working really hard. We just clicked immediately and we busted out 4 songs in like 24 hours at one or no, 4 songs and 48. And then so like most obviously the other two still needs more polishing and for me to like have a silent moment to do the self recording. So I think that's where I feel a little bit of anxiety because I am somewhat of a perfectionist in a lot of ways. And like
Mhm.
my 2 songs was obviously I found an engineer with the studio to record my voice and they like fixed it, right?
Yeah.
This one is like I'm recording at home and trying to like
We
figure
have a community of, producers and writers and labels. We don't just artist spotlight anybody, right?
yeah.
Like you should, the last artist that we did an artist spotlight on was Sozi. We're very, very particular with who we spotlight. And what we do is we take these once they're edited and we distribute them across our network. Is based off of the partnerships that I'm creating to help artists that deserve a little bit of support like you. So we partner with Vita TV, with Metaverse Radio. We partner with Tuning In. We partner with Do Wow. So essentially, we're over 50 social platforms, 100 different parcels across 8 different metaverses. So it's really exciting. And as far as the music and the artistry of who you are, because that's really the focus that you know attracted me to you. I love everything about it. Like I want to talk about it all, but what I'm saying is I want you to have as much confidence in your artistry as a musician as you do, in your artistry of the art.
I appreciate that and thank you for taking the time. I know and modeling is a total different thing than fashion modeling. So I actually started off as a figure model for artists and then
What was that like?
very vulnerable, very frightening. Well, the funny thing is I was doing figure modeling for fine artists off of Craigslist when I was in college just to like have money to do my thesis for art. And that was the most funniest thing. I remember specifically model for 1 hour, you get $50. I took that $50 and I got like this outfit that I needed for my project, which was essentially my whole entire portrayal of like how I saw myself as a Korean American. So I like photographed all my, diverse colored friends. And so currently right now I'm with a new mother agent and I'm with represented by Muse Models in NYC, which is a pretty big one here.
How do you like, balancing those careers in both music and modeling? How do you maintain your authenticity to stay true to your artistic vision in both those fields?
I don't know. It's just hard for me to be fake these days.
With Wi-Fi, like how was it? How was the onboarding process to Sound XYZ? Because I'm sure there's a lot of artists out there like you that only been in Web3 for a very, very short minute, right? So what was that onboarding experience getting your music, which on a decentralized platform like XYZ?
Well, I mean, like, honestly, no one really onboarded me. I just like did my research and was like picking between manifold token tracks and then sound. And then I was like, well, sound looks like an easy interface. It looks very similar to like a lot of the interfaces we've seen for like SoundCloud and stuff. So it was fine. I wish there was like certain things that I changed about like the uploading process, but I don't know if it was because of the limitations at that time, because it was before they added base as like a sense of currency, but also I don't know. There's a lot of things. A lot of the musicians are talking about, right? Someone actually pinpointed that sound. If you have a music on sound, that sound has the rights to the artist's music for like eternity. Even if you leave sound and delete, we all know it. We talk about it all the time. Most of these like big artists that have really made it and signed with all these labels, they have a whole entire team backing up them with socials. Just alone socials, they probably have a team of like 15 people.
I
And
know.
I think like the thing that, a lot of artists, and this is why like I came into Web3 as just a musician. I was like, let me just test this out. Like, is Web3 even valuable in comparison to Web2? And honestly, for me, like even though my limited edition was low in the price, like in my mindset, I was like, how much would I actually pay for a single in IRL time? Like, would I really pay $50 for one single? Not really. The only reason, like that kind of like mentality is like, oh, there are whales in Web3. It was like, this is why I'm going to sell it for that amount. Also, it is going to be my worth. But ultimately for me, I was like, my songs have already been on centralized platforms for like 2 years or even might as well just put it for like 0.003, like not too much, right? And then ultimately within the past 3 months, I have, a very thankfully sold out and like 30x my profits as to what I made in 2 years on centralized platforms. I was
Mm.
like, that in itself is a case study. But like most obviously, I put in a lot of work, a lot of effort. I had to share my music. I had to be in these spaces
Yeah.
24/7. Not everyone is able to do that. A lot of people have their
And then
jobs.
and you burn out.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then it's not fun anymore. And as long as it's the second it stops being fun, you lose the
Right.
creativity.
Right. And another thing is it's like, you would be in like these music spaces and there's like hundreds and hundreds of people up there. That's great. But the main people who are speaking are like friends, right? Like they started this in the beginning. So they're getting and then it takes like hours and hours for you to even get up there. And I remember this one specific time in the very beginning. I think it was like my second month of like even speaking in spaces, and it was my turn. And I was like, I had my guitar next to me. I was just like sitting down over an hour and a half, and then they were like, "Oh, we're rugging the space," even though I was like next in line. And then that actually pushed me to the point where I was like, "I'm just going to start a space today in like the next hour."
Yeah, good for you.
Getting
Yeah,
comfortable.
because this is not promised.
Right.
Nothing is promised. Like just because you're in Web3, and even if you're in Web3 and you have a family and kids, still nobody gives a shit.
No,
I
exactly.
mean, music is the byproduct. It's not the product,
I
right?
think. Oh,
It's the
sorry.
community. It's the community. Think about it. The reason why people are going to invest more money in your music is because you're a part of the community that people get to know you. It's that personal level. So like knowing you, I'd probably buy your NFT for more money as opposed to not knowing you. I wouldn't have bought it for 0.003 if I didn't hear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
it's really about the community build. Like that's where these are different rules in Web3 because you're talking global and you have a completely bigger pool of potential fans out there that
Mhm.
are willing to pay for your music and to be a part of that community to get to know you. And it's the community that you surround yourself around. These face-to-face conversations, which aren't even in Twitter, but just seeing each other, man, like you know what I mean, means the
Oh yeah.
whole world to me and a difference. Like I'm not, and so it's a little bit more personal. It's a little bit human. It's there's a connection there.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
100%. I agree with that too. But actually, like, even me doing like 12 weeks of weeklies is, just doing like open mics, getting to know people, growing my like stage. And I'm still growing. Like, I haven't
you know
even
what?
reached one
I have
year.
some ideas for you because I have all these ideas because not a lot of artists like yourself have these metaverses, right? Now it's funny because that metaverse that you built that platform, I've never been in that one
On Cyber.
on Cyber. That's crazy. I was like, what the, let me just write that down so I don't forget it again.
Oh, yeah.
But what we could do is we have to be different in approach, right? You don't want to just put these spaces on the same way everybody else is doing. Right. So essentially, what you could potentially do is you could have a space and you could also have like 1,000 people inside of this box.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
No, for sure. So,
Stream it and then stream it inside your metaverse and then
yeah.
broadcast that out across Twitter.
I wanted to touch base in regards to that. So in 2024, I decided to, after doing like 12 consecutive weeks of just bases, which is not a lot. I'm not saying it's a lot, but I was like, I kind of want to shift the narrative because like there's a lot of like these open mic spaces, which is great. But like after the past couple months, even spending like over 12, 15 hours per day, I'm kind of like seeing the same type of people. Most of the time, it's like the same type of people, especially around me. And like a lot of people were talking about like how can Web3 save Web2? How can Web2 save Web3? I repeat this topic a lot because I thought it was so funny that everyone somehow is in this mentality psyop of like doing the same type of topics throughout the spaces and we're talking about it over and over again, versus like no actual progression. And so like for me, I'm like, most obviously I have over 10 plus years as a photographer and a model. So I have all for me to be even like getting more comfortable like of what you're doing as like the host and asking the questions, I decided to put myself in that position. So this week I interviewed one of my first guests, aka Slay Riz. She's been in the music industry for like 10 plus years, and she does cosplay. She's a great performer. She's Filipina and she raps, sings, everything. And then so she was on the plane.
I was actually in that space.
Yeah, he is
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. She was in the
Yeah,
plane, right? She was in the plane.
yeah, she was literally on the
Yeah,
plane doing this. So it was hard to condense a whole 3.5 hour to 1 hour, but I did it. So I
yeah,
edited out, I distributed out a cast to do it as a podcast, listing it all, and then also worked with Meta to stream it at the same time because she's a musician. I do know a lot of people. So like I started challenging myself with my spaces to make it more conductive for me to get more outreach, that I am going to be utilizing these centralized ways of distribution of just like not just talking in spaces and that's that. It's like, why not reach it out onto the metaverse? Why not reach it
yeah.
out onto like
That's
Spotify?
how, then what you do is you could have a space parallel to that,
Right.
right? So, it's constantly keeping ahead, not constantly doing the same shit that everybody's doing because it's crazy, like
I mean,
boring.
people do it all the time for gaming and stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's why I think what you guys are doing is smart and also innovative, but also easy for the Web 2 people who want to transfer into Web 3 be able to digest it, because it is essentially kind of using the same type of technology of like multi streaming, right?
Hmm.
Like, especially for like game stuff. Like, even the world is so small, so like for me to just like even give my 2 cents into like what I think is essentially utility for me as a person
Yeah,
is so people can have access to all of my content. I was
yeah.
actually thinking of a self-love kind of development content creation space.
Mm.
Um, I've definitely been getting some DMs and like commentaries from other women in the space. There's not a lot of women in the space. Let's be honest, like I even heard like a little bird tell me that like some people would like hire girls just to be in their spaces so they have something to look at. Yeah, like some weird stuff. I'm just like,
I
so
don't
it's
believe that.
they're like call girls that are in your spaces pretending to like Web3 for ETH.
Funny.
Oh my
Jamie
god.
said she'll be a call girl. I believe that getting people into Web3. So when you have these interviews, you got to give the spotlight over to your friends.
Hmm.
Start promoting them because I was just saying the other day, like, this is how I believe it works. It's not about you going how great Kaguya is, right? It's about how great I can say you are, and it's about how everybody in my other community. And the further we get from you, the bigger it gets for you,
Right.
right? Because you have these artists like just really what happens is they're at the right here on that 45 degree, right, working in their communities, but they're really not promoting anybody outside of themselves and their projects. There is a dance. There is a dance.
It's like room, just sit down and listen, see the vibes are right or not. You have to fuck around and find out. I'm not giving any financial advice or any advice in general. Like you had to figure it out yourself. And so like in certain space and case scenarios, obviously, like if it's just a conversation, I'm just going to have a conversation. A lot of people actually in the very beginnings of my space things, a lot of people didn't know I did music because I'm just having a conversation with them. I'm just like trying to get to know their humor. Are everyone's different,
Yeah.
obviously, from all around the world. So yeah, and then when they find my music, they're like, "Oh shit, you do music?"
Yeah, great music. What is your plans for the rest of the year? But more importantly, I don't want to say the year. Take me 30 days from now.
I mean, I already have guests booked up till like the third week of March.
Okay.
Some of them are even like some of my friends, Tess Holiday, who's a really big plus size model, essentially like a celebrity. But I just see her as a normal, and like other musicians as well, who have already dabbled in NFTs and stuff. So that's one part that's exciting. Hopefully, my flow of things will get easier, like editing it down, taking the archives, posting them, making the graphics. Like I'm doing all of that. Like I don't have necessarily a team that is helping me with that. But I like a challenge, and I also like to start new projects. Obviously, pushing out and finishing the collaborations I have on deck. I think I have around 3 different producers right now to work with. And so, and there's already 4 tracks that are on the way.
I'm really excited to hear that. I really am.
Yeah,
I
so
really
like
am.
those are in the works. I think we're just like waiting on the right thing. Most obviously working on the tech with music, most obviously showcasing to artists that they can be their own business. And even though a lot of people are still like kind of like I don't want to be a token, like there's too much like scams with that. There's a way that we cultivated it where we also are pairing and linking other coins and communities with my coin.
Mhm.
At it's only been out for like the past 2 weeks. So we recently launched my coin, Kaguya. A lot of people, especially in the Web3 Degen space, we're all into like shit coins or meme coins and like, even artists now, especially with like the Soul write up, they're like, oh, let me get on Soul and let me be a Degen, like let me invest in this meme coin. But a meme coin is just a meme. And most of these times when a meme coin is launched, there's not really a lot of memes. And so it's like, what are you actually investing in, right? You're just trying to go in to get your bags up, which is fine. But ultimately, instead of like the aspect of having like a meme coin, how about a music coin? How about an artist has their own utility coin that they can present themselves not just as an artist, but as a business? And then in turn of having even just 1% of music, we have an anti-woke. So each wallet can only have up to 1% period. There's no pumping or dumpings allowed in it. And there's only a certain amount of supply. So after the supply is done, that's that. But every single person who has the 1% will be gifted a whitelisted tech of an artist app, which has 5 different ways of revenue with 6 different blockchains with your own NFT marketplace that can upload music to images to video,
Mhm.
and also an API that is installed with it with Printify, so you can have your own merch release. But then having your followers coming in, and if they wanted to contribute to you and make merch for you, they will get like a split percentage with your own token launchpad as well. So it's like those are the things that we're working on in order for like musicians and Web3 to really have like a home. Because I feel like what I've seen in the past couple of months, we're all kind of like a little bit spread out, right? And they also say like even though there's all these blockchains, it's not like a DistroKid distribution. You shouldn't put your music onto all these blockchains. It kind of dilutes your value and your worth, which is interesting. Because at the same time, it's like how you had like a lot, like a certain percentage who were only on Sol. How about if you had a certain amount of people who are on Tezos, and then but then ETH is like the main aspect, but there's like so much gas fees. It's like, why am I paying $20 for a
Yeah,
60?
I literally went back to U.S. dollar. Just buy the music U.S.
Right.
dollar, because I rather pay tax than gas. And so, is it just a coin, or is there utility with it?
Yes, there's utility with it. So ultimately, a good percentage would be most obviously liquidity for the artist to like put into any of theirs. You will be able to use my Kaguya coin to purchase my NFTs, and also, it's like ultimately everyone who has minted my music on Sound XYZ was gifted my coin. And so it's like not just a coin where you burn it and it disappears, or you get some like free pack of stickers for. It's a coin worth real utility where not only you can support me, but you can eat yourself.
Okay.
And so it's like a long term type of investment, not just like a quick flip type of situation. And that's what we want to do with a lower market cap. So it's more of like a showcase model. I'm just like, this is what's possible. And we released one on the Polygon network because it's like little to no gas fees. A penny.
Question is, do you see yourself doing more metaverse shows, or taking these live stream events, or even your interviews that you're doing outside of the 2D into cyber metaverse?
Yeah, I mean, my on cyber was more of like a showcase as well for like musicians to utilize like the metaverse. It's like, and at that time, Blue, can you stop? I have a husky and he's just like rubbing his face, making lots of noise right now. Acts like a pup even though he's like 6. Lay down. Okay. Anyways, yes, I am planning to use the metaverse, and most obviously with the help of you guys and Biometa. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like thinking about like the liveliness of aspects of it, right? It's like I think I'm going to utilize that kind of tool mainly for like my musician interviews versus like my regular art and business type of interviews. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like thinking about it in that kind of aspect, but most obviously need to get more savvy in regards to like the tech side. Like I see that you have your banner and you're popping up images and all that stuff. Do that. So like that's why I'm
Well, if
thinking
you ever want to borrow it, it's all yours.
okay. Yeah. But like yeah, I don't know. I think like the way how a lot of these projects and stuff are going is like the gaming route, but you need music to even have games. So I
Right.
think that's the whole thing. It's like I feel like a lot of communities, if they don't have like a musician doing like a theme song for them, it doesn't necessarily pump as much either.
Thank you for just being here with me and chilling with me and learning so much about you. And
Yeah,
I'm here to support you as a source of information with broadcasting just as much as I do. And I'm really excited to hear some of this new music that you got coming out.
yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having
You
me.
got it.
Hi, you guys. My name is Kaguya. I'm an artist, model, and tech entrepreneur. I'm here with musicdistrict.io as we're discovering new music and Web3 one broadcast at a time.
I don't want a good night, no. I'd rather let this last forever, but only if you knew my mind. But no, but I guess I'm asking for too much. You said I'm the only one you like, but no, you just say it and don't replay it. Why bother me all this time? Oh, taken from an old place all alone. It's 2 a.m., I'm texting you. You never call back, you never call back. Yeah, it's 3 a.m. and I'm wanting you, but you never come around. And I don't wanna act like I'm okay no more. Oh, okay no more. Oh, don't you come back no more. Oh, come back no more. I'm staring at these headlights like whoa, like I was to be caught off guard. You were the only one on my mind, but no, but I guess I'm asking for too much. I said you're the only one I like, but no, I just said it and regret it. What bothered me all this time? Oh, taken from an old place all alone. If I was lost for sure, then why am I so perfect when you're the one who's leading me on? If I was lost for sure, then why am I so perfect when you're the one who's leading me on? So tell me, what are you thinking about me? I'm trying to guess what you're gonna be saying, but every time you play me, I'm just playing. I don't wanna act like I'm okay no more. Oh, okay You never call back, yeah. It's 3 a.m. and I'm wanting you, but you never come around.